What about you?
I don't think this Red Sox team, even if it has its best year, has the talent to win the division. I really just don't. I think the potential, maybe. Talent, no. I think the worst case for this team would be, I wouldn't say you're like last year, but I'd say 70-win type season. Best case, I'd say, is wild card, out first round. So I'm going to go, I said a 77, 75 wins, around that range. I don't think they're going to make the playoffs. I don't think they're good enough yet. I think they're too young. But I think they're moving in the right direction, obviously. Giving the manager less control over the team. We all know the Bobby Valentine mistake last year. I think that kind of helped, and I think John Farrell and Ben Cherington are moving the Red Sox in the right direction.
But keep in mind that it's not talent that wins games, you know. I mean, if you take a look, recently Florida Gulf Coast, you think they have more talent than Georgetown? No, but they won, right? So it's not just about the talent, it's also about the spark and what happens. So, I mean, obviously talent has a factor, but my point is that that's not all that's it.
See, what I would say is going to be the biggest factor this year is going to be what they do at the trade deadline. If they're in a good position to be buyers at the trade deadline and they get someone decent, like they're probably going to end up needing someone in the field, maybe a shortstop if Steven Drew doesn't work out. That's going to be the biggest thing for them. If they make some good acquisitions around the trade deadline, I say they're an 85-90 win team. If they don't, probably below 500, around 80. But we're now going to move on to the Final Four in March Madness. As so far, 3 teams have secured their spot in the Final Four. Those 3 teams being Michigan, as they absolutely destroyed Florida earlier today, and then Wichita State and Syracuse both securing their berth earlier. But there's still the Duke-Louisville game today, which should be a very, very crazy game, to say the least. Guys, what are your thoughts on today's Duke-Louisville game?
Well, all I want to say is that this game is definitely going to be exciting. I mean, look back at the previous matchup with Christian Laettner's game-winning shot. I mean, that was one of the most amazing, epic shots to this date. So, I mean, imagine what Rick Pitino and Coach K have in store for this game. Regarding who's going to win, I think it's definitely going to go down neck to neck. For Duke to win, I think that the D has to step up. I mean, they're only allowing like 35%, the opposing team to shoot 35%. Seth Curry is shooting 50% behind the arc, which is unreal. So if he gets on fire, there's no stopping him. For Louisville really has to get to Russ Smith and Peyton Siva. I mean, their athleticism is unreal, and they can really push it in transition if they do well.
I think obviously the Louisville press is going to bother Duke, because the fact of the matter is, and this is just truth, Duke has one good ball handler right now, and that's Quinn Cook. Seth Curry's a pure shooter. He's not a guy that's going to put the ball on the floor. Rashid Suleiman is more of a small forward type. He's not really a guy that he's decent at getting by people, but he's not great at it. I think, to me, what this game is going to come down to, though, is how Duke shoots the ball, and how Duke limits its turnovers. Because if Louisville is gets turnovers, then they're just going to score all day. It's going to become easy for them. If Duke can make some threes, Kirk can get going, Ryan Kelly too, maybe get some baskets inside for Plumlee, then you've now got something going. Because I think Duke is considered kind of the underdog, despite the fact that they won earlier against Louisville this season. But I think also for Louisville, they got to make outside shots, because that's what Duke is going to force them to do. They have a guy, Luke Hancock's a good shooter, but Siva and Smith are not great shooters at all. So you need other guys to step up and make shots outside, maybe Wayne Blackshear as well. I think, to me, it's going to come down the wire. I think Louisville is going to pull this one out because of their quickness. But it definitely can be. It's definitely going to be a close one. It's definitely going to come down the wire.
For more on that game, we're going to go to a preview we had from YBA newcomer Michael Rosenblum.
All right, standing by with a preview of the Duke-Louisville game is Michael Rosenblum. Mike? Thanks, guys. I'm at Lucas Oil Stadium at the site of the Midwest Regional versus Duke with the coach of Mike Krzyzewski versus Louisville, the #1 seed, Rick Pitino. Louisville is the only #1 seed left in the tournament, and Duke is the only #2 seed also left in the tournament. Final four berth is up for grabs, the last one of the tournament. Duke's key is to handle the pressure of Louisville, of the two very quick guards, Peyton Siva and Russ Smith, and to get Seth Curry open for shots. And Louisville's keys to the game is to get Russ Smith the ball, especially in transition. He is so dangerous there. I'm Michael.
It's currently 15-15 in the Louisville-Duke game, obviously a very close one there. But we're now going to move on to our picks for the Final Four. I know Aman already gave us a little bit of his there. So we'll start with you, Aman. What's your thoughts?
Yeah, for Michigan, Syracuse, I think Michigan is going to make it to the championship. I think they're going to defeat the 2-3 zone right at Syracuse. And I think Jim Boeheim's magic is going to run out. I mean, if you take a look at them today, they absolutely demolished Florida, shooting inside and out, just turnovers. What they did to them was just embarrass them. And if they can carry the momentum on, they can really punish Syracuse in transition, you know. So the key for them, I think, for stopping Syracuse is actually in transition. Michael Carter-Williams and Trish, they're really, really good. And if they can put a stop to them and limit the turnovers, they'll be in good shape to make it to the national championship game.
As for that game, and by the way, it's 17-17 now with 9 left. But whoever wins this Louisville-Duke game is going to get Wichita State. At this point, Wichita State, I think, has a very good chance to win that game. And I know people are considering them kind of the Cinderella of this group, kind of the odd man out. But I think if you look at them, they're very strong inside. And that is something that can bother teams. They maybe have their center and their power forward may be a bit undersized, but they know how to score. They're fast, they're quick, and they don't have a huge weakness that can help them come tournament time, as you see when they beat Ohio State. But I think the big key, though, in the other game with the Michigan-Syracuse is how Michigan shoots the ball. If Michigan shoots the ball fine, then they're going to beat Syracuse. I don't think there's a question about that. Because Syracuse, the fact is they can't score. If they don't, I think the advantage is Syracuse, because the fact is, for some reason, college coaches do not know how to beat the easiest defense in the world, to beat the 2-3 zone. But I think, to be honest, I think Michigan's going to win that game. But if they don't shoot the ball well, Syracuse will win on the other game. Right now, I say Louisville. But if Duke comes out of that, I still think they have a bit of an advantage over Wichita. I think because Wichita is not, while they are quick, I said they're not as quick as a Louisville, and they're not as good defensively as a Duke. But I think you give Wichita State definitely has a chance. So, yeah.
To me, it's really going to come down to who wins this Duke-Louisville game and which one of them will end up taking Michigan in the final, as they are my pick from the Michigan-Syracuse game. I see either Duke or Louisville. Personally, my pick is Duke because of the Seth Curry, Mason Plumlee, I should say, and Ryan Kelly. With him coming back, they are quite the dominant team right now. And I think they should be able to take care of Louisville in the long run, as they have just so many options that can score, that can put the ball in the net. So
yeah,
I think when you get to the final of that Michigan-Duke game, in my opinion, I think it will be Michigan. As I've seen them throughout the tournament, they have really just improved every single game, getting better and better.
Yeah, it's hard to believe that they were ranked the 5 seed in their tournament and they've gotten this far, so they've definitely made a big run. For Wichita State, I think since they're so strong inside, they're probably vying for Louisville to win, because Louisville's not as strong as a team outside shooting as Duke is. Duke, you know, Seth Curry. Regarding Michigan, you said that Michigan shoots well, they'll be able to do well. Michigan only shot like 46%, and Florida shot 41%. And there's only a 5% difference, but the score difference was 20 points. So the big thing, I think, is the defense and the turnovers and getting in transition and second chance shots. Because Michigan, even if they shot 46%, the amount of second chance shots they got and offensive rebounds that was one major factor that made the difference. So I think that's going to be a big thing.
It wasn't just that. I think Florida does not shoot many three-pointers. Michigan shoots a lot of three-pointers, and I think, obviously, in college basketball, three-pointer is the big equalizer. I mean, it really is. If you look at it, some teams that have more talent, especially in teams like you look at like Ivy League schools, yeah, they have less talent, but if they can start make threes, they can stay in games. It really is the big equalizer, and that's why I think Michigan, because they're used to shooting so many threes, will be used to scoring against the zone.
All right, great stuff, guys. We're going to go to a break now, but when we get back, we'll be talking some NBA hoops with you guys. Welcome back to K Sports Sunday. Back here with some basketball. I'm Liam Mailer once again, and with me is Nick and Aman. In a little bit, we're going to have a blog from Carter Woodeil, but as I said, we will be starting out with some NBA hoops here, specifically the Celtics, as they will be facing the Knicks tonight. And that's definitely going to be a good game, guys, isn't it? As they're both teams with some older players now, especially the Knicks being built around really, really old guys now at this point. Carmelo Anthony being Carmelo Anthony being
and
one of their
J.R.
only.
Smith.
They're really their only big
Stoudemire.
players right now. Stoudemire's getting on the old
Chandler,
side.
yeah.
He's really breaking down. You look, they have the Steve Novaks of the world. It's going to be an interesting game tonight. What are you guys' thoughts on the matchup?
Well, I think if you look at the matchup they had about a week ago, that was a disaster for the Celtics. Gave us, I think, 102 points. And
Defense really fell apart in that game.
yeah, I think without KG, it became a bit of an adjustment for 5 or 6 games for the Celtics to defend inside. But I think they've learned that to win these games now, especially if you watched the Hawks game the other night, you could tell that it really takes for them to score. They gotta have a lot of scoring tonight. And I think if you look at the Knicks, though, they're a bad matchup without KG because the Knicks don't have a lot of size, and without KG, the Celtics can't really exploit that. I think for the Celtics, it's got to come down to how they defend, and I think especially keeping the ball in front of them. They got burned on drives the last time they played, and if that happens again, the Knicks will just be scoring at the basket and on driving kicks all day.
Yeah, I mean, KG's not back yet, right? He's not?
No.
Yeah, so that's going to be huge, especially with Chandler and Stoudemire down there. But keep in mind that whatever the outcome of this game is, Kevin Garnett is not there. And also, the Celtics are, knock on wood, clutch when it comes to the postseason. So even if they don't do as well today, there's still some magic in them. I mean, they are the Celtics. They got the Irish luck. So Paul Pierce will come in through for them in the postseason. So, but regarding today, yeah, defense is a huge thing with Avery Bradley. If he can shut down, starting at the beginning with the point guard J.R. Smith and Felton, then they can do some damage in transition and in turnovers. So I don't know if the Celtics are going to win today. I don't really expect them to, but we'll see what happens.
Now moving on to the playoff picture as it's really starting to shape up. Celtics looking like they may be taking on Indiana. What do you think is the ideal matchup for the Celtics going into this season's playoffs?
I think if KG comes back and is healthy, it's the Indiana Pacers because the Pacers are not a team that scores a lot. And if you're the Celtics, and sometimes they've had trouble scoring, sometimes they have trouble with defense. It seems to be kind of on and off both sides. Then they're a team you want to play because they're not going to blow you out most of the time.
Yeah.
Plus, the Celtics won in Indiana a couple weeks ago, I think. So I think what you have right now is you may have Roy Hibbert in there who could really hurt you inside, and Danny Granger's coming back. But I think besides that, I think they're a team that's a good matchup for the Celtics. I think on paper, the Celtics definitely have a good chance against them.
Yeah, I disagree on that. I think the Pacers are really young, and the Celtics are old. I mean, the Pacers have Paul George, Danny Granger, Roy Hibbert, as opposed to the Knicks, who are on the old side, with Stoudemire and Anthony. So I think if they face the Knicks, it'll be a better matchup for them. But who knows what's going to happen? There's only a half game separating those two teams, so anything can happen in the final 10 games of the season. But I think it's a better matchup against the Knicks, primarily because they're older, as opposed to the young Pacers.